Your own backstory really stood out in a big way and was super interesting to me, and I'm sure you can appreciate how different it is from many of the industry leaders.
I think we all come from a lot of unique backgrounds in the experiential kind of side of the industry. And that's what makes some of the work that we do just magical and pop, you know? So like the fact that I come from a military background, you know, and not a lot of others do. Um, Again, you got people that, you know, come from all walks of life that, you know, find their way into this industry and we all bring unique perspectives.
I was going to say, I think that that word "find their way" is really the operative term because I don't think you have many kids, 7, 8, 9, 10, who are thinking, I'm going to get into experiential marketing and I'm going to produce, large scale activations. I don't think it's there. I think it is something that gets pulled out through life experience. You're exposed to things and it leads you one thing onto the next.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just building on that even a little bit too, like my wife, she's an actress and she, you know, when she was 7 years old, and as soon as you said that, like when she was 7 years old, she knew exactly what she wanted to be for the rest of her life. I was not one of those people. I had an affinity to the military and didn't come from a military family or anything like that. But, you know, I think it was kind of always in the cards for me at one point to go try that. But it wasn't my purpose. It wasn't the end all be all. And yeah, when I was 7 years old, I wasn't like, I'm going to be an experiential marketer after, you know, some time in the army and stuff like that. I was a history undergrad at a small school in Rhode Island. You know, it had really, again, like I mentioned previously, like no deep connection to the military or anything like that. But, you know, after my undergrad, I actually had worked a year in nonprofit management. I had a, you know, kind of distinct sense of purpose, but about a year in, I knew I wanted something even kind of more challenging. I wanted, you know, really to broaden my horizons, I guess. And it had always been in the back of my head to go try out the military. So I jumped in 2009 as an officer because I had that college degree. You even though you kind of start a path with a college degree, becoming an officer, you actually start at the very bottom. But basically, you know, I spent when all is said and done, it ended up being 7+ years active, full-time Army, doing a whole bunch of different roles too. And then another couple of years in the reserves, part-time. And, you know, it was, you know, I don't want to go like kind of into all of the kind of cookie cutter tropes of like, you know, hey, I learned discipline, I learned work ethic, I learned, you know, leadership. Of course, you learn all those things, but you know, I really the work ethic, the leadership, all that stuff, it came from having that sense of purpose and and then being a part of some really good teams that like really took care of each other, that really had this cohesion. Um, I was lucky that I got to be a part of this one organization that we spent a year training and then went to Afghanistan for a year. And then I spent some time back stateside after that. So we had really deep connections and that kind of allowed us to adapt a lot because we knew each other really well. So I spent a year, you know, in a conflict zone doing reconnaissance and surveillance, doing like wild things that, you know, as I reflect back on it a decade plus later, it feels some of the stories that I think of from that time, like they feel like other people's stories sometimes versus my own. And there were some really cool moments where things came together because of the people and how well, again, how well we worked with each other and how like well we knew how to work with each other. Um, I think that's like I learned how to be a part of a winning team and how to like build on that. So that was really cool.
Tell me about how it came that you were winding your time down at the military and your process for looking at what was going to come next for you.
My wife and I just had our first kid, Theodore, and we knew it wasn't something that we wanted to kind of continue as a family. Um, so I was genuinely pulled towards kind of a new challenge and the family. We knew we wanted to build something more, you know, geographically permanent. And I made, you know, that intentional kind of exit and kind of, we were able to move anywhere. So like we actually ended up landing on Austin because my wife's actually from the area. So we had kind of a social safety net and stuff. And I knew I wanted to work in tech in Austin. This is 2015. Dell Technologies, continues to be one of the biggest tech employers in the Austin area. That was kind of my number one target, and just like network my way in.
How did you figure out the explanation of your transferable skills? How did you figure out how they would appreciate you and where you would fit in their ecosystem?
I think it was kind of starting with the tropes, starting with I've learned over the past 7+ years how to communicate effectively, how to communicate a vision, how to lead without authority. Because even, when you wear a rank, that doesn't mean someone's going to listen to you. You still have to learn how to influence and lead, without authority. Another just thing that I was communicating a lot at the time as I was networking and making connections is just my follow through, right? So like my resume was already kind of showing at the time that like, look, you give me something to go do, I will follow through with it until I understand it and it's, the objectives are complete. I kind of serial networked my way around and eventually got in front of a leader who was looking for potential, not looking for specific titles and specific bullets in a resume. And thankfully he took a chance on me. So
What age were you for that?
28 or so, somewhere right in there.
Huge change at 28. You're already married. You've got your first baby. Did you find yourself stricken as most would with sort of imposter syndrome sort of feelings, or did you feel a kind of a confidence that had brought you into the room?
I think I still feel imposter syndrome every day. I think I probably felt it signing into this podcast. You know what I mean? Yes, in full swing, like it, in those early days. My first job at Dell, I was a quality engineer. My boss led this like Six Sigma business improvement team. In the interview, he asked me if I knew what Six Sigma was, and I was like, I don't know. He's like, here's a booklet. But again, I did have the confidence that I'll figure it out, right? So that first kind of emotional response of I have no idea what I'm doing, what I'm stepping into. Yes, that's scary and that's real, and it's a lot of it's justified. But again, I had even at that time the confidence that I'll figure it out. Like it might not be pretty, I might make some mistakes here and there, but
You're hitting on, I mean, the essential quality, really, isn't it? The growth mindset, where you're saying, whatever I don't know I can learn it. I back myself.
It's exactly why, an hour ago I was in this windsurf platform, this AI platform, looking at this really intimidating user interface that has all this code and all this stuff. And I don't have that background at all, but I'm curious. I'm not gonna be an AI developer. I'm, not to go down that whole rabbit hole, but I'm sitting in that platform thinking, I don't deserve to be here. I don't know what this is, but I'm not going to just like click it, close and go do something that I'm comfortable with. It's that kind of that follow through. Yeah. That growth mindset of like, hey, I'm going to figure something out in this weird tool, get something out of it. So
I think it's great. And I think that your kids, if you don't mind me saying, will stand to that. Having seen you operate in that space, in that headspace, it's a great model. It's a great example for kids to grow up with.
Thank you. Yeah, it's something that I've been intentional about as a father. My wife Samantha is very much in that same camp with me. Like we both come from very different backgrounds, but we share that similar mindset. I got my 12-year-old, he was just in his first play, right? So his mom, an actress, like she's in a play right now. He was in his first play. The confidence, he's a sixth grader. He's in middle school. So he's the youngest of 3 grades. And when he stepped into that audition and just ran with it, like, that was something that he observed like in his parents. And obviously there's some genetics that he benefited from, his mom. But yeah, like it was that proud dad moment of like, I know I'm not taking full credit for that. Again, like there's plenty of other factors, but this was a kid who just stepped out there and said, hey, I'm going to do this. I'm going to figure it out. So
yeah, there's a the ever present balance of nature and nurture, but you are saying whatever core tenets you have, we have at least fostered an environment that's allowed you to flourish, and that can give you a great sense of pride.
Yeah, and you know, I think that's something that it also has over the past, especially the past like 5 years, as a people leader, as a leader, you know, by title or by just mindset, like the team, this kind of this evolution of the team that I've had over the past 5+ years, you know, I have a lot of proud moments where I see someone from the team, you know, kind of really stepping up, emulating kind of the virtues, the behaviors, the things that we say out loud that are important, and the things that like I exhibit, right? So, you know, it's, yeah, it comes through in different, you know, whether it's professionally or personally.
What are you proudest of from your work?
I think some of my proudest like moments, like point in time moments, are kind of at the end of a big event series, at the end of this big thing where I look back and reflect on the past several days, and like think about all of the times that my team took care of each other. Like that's something that's really, really important. Like we talk about it all the time, that like we're kind of looking around corners for each other. We are looking out for each other. Because I knew, again, from my experience in the military, that like you've got to take care of that person to your left and right, you know, like, and so like there's been some specific events and moments where it's just like I felt this kind of overwhelming sense of pride, having watched for 3 or 4 days a team just take care of each other and do something really cool.
I'm glad you drew that parallel. You could find a commonality between the cauldron of pressure that can come with producing a live experience, right? And the correlation between that and a military experience, that there might be some parallels. You kind of alluded to the fact that there is, and that must be nice for you to feel that follow through throughout your career.
There was like a specific, you know, operation in Afghanistan where I'm like deep in the mountains, get dropped off in a helicopter with the team, and we're going through the mountains and all this stuff. And we miscalculated like how steep this one mountain was, and we had to get over it and back down the other side to get to our helicopter extraction. And, you know, I made the awesome decision the day before to do leg day at the gym the day before. So like I'm hitting muscle failure. I'm a bumbling mess going up this mountain. And there was this young guy who like is literally, he's not doing well. Like he's quitting. Like in his head, he's like, he can't do it. And, you know, I'm like, what am I going to do? Like I'm basically right almost there with him. And then these other two guys start literally like pulling him up over the mountain, and we all start to kind of rally, and then you start to feel this momentum. No, that's the ultimate, right? That's like, that is something I'll reflect on until, you know, the day I die. It's one of those moments, you know, that, you can't recreate. But in the corporate world, again, like at the end of, one of these like big 600 person, kind of internal event series that I do, there's a couple different flavors of things that I do for Dell. Again, I've had a very similar, almost kind of like visceral, like emotional experience coming through kind of the end of one of these, you know, just grueling events, right? Like with so many different variables, so many different things that come up, just reflecting back on like very specific moments where basically someone picks the other person up, gets them over the hump.
You know, we often in the walls of this place talk about the work that we do is not life and death. You know, at the end of the day, we're putting on a corporate event, we're bringing in a kind of a very much a life or death situation, and you are finding the correlation there. And I think that while they're extremely different, you can point to the ingredients in both situations that can be activated, right? Like a selflessness, nation, or having even the empathy to look to the person beside you and realizing quickly what they need, and that you can be the person to provide.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, and you know, I find this really deep satisfaction in knowing that so much of my work, so much of like what I put out there into this corporate world, you know, creates those moments, right? Like, so we do these experiential things. I'm on the B2B side, right? And I do a healthy mix of like internal and external, because, you know, we're a big company. Dell Technologies is 90,000+ people. So there's a healthy, good, mix of different things that are going on there. None of it is life or death, but what I'm doing, like what I'm facilitating, like it's this human connection, and that feels really, it feels right. It feels really good. Um, and there's, I find a deep satisfaction in just knowing that whether it's again, like I've helped create and foster a team and a culture that makes those moments where people are taking care of each other. But beyond that, beyond like the walls of my team, the events, the experiences, the activations, the programs, whatever you want to call it, that we're facilitating create a lot of relationships, create a lot of connections. That feels really, really satisfying, really gratifying.
I can empathize that in a big way. Before I did this, I'm 5 years into EA, I'm 5 years into the US, but before I did that, I was a primary school teacher, an elementary school teacher. So much the same as yourself, huge difference, albeit I didn't have that team environment, all right? It's very much teacher and your sixth graders, right? And coming into this environment, seeing, events being produced and seeing those rallying moments and seeing the kind of the grit, determination, team stuff, it really appealed to me in a way that hadn't been captured for me since sport growing up. So there was like sport coming all the way up, then college, and then into my professional life, and then something was lost that was, in my 30s was refound through this profession. It was very unexpected for me.
It is cool. I mean, life is a team sport. It's, a lot of us have jobs, have different roles over the years that, connect with that more or, but I think what you had in that classroom was also really special too. Like the impact that you had on those kids, right? Like that's a team in and of itself. And I think just as human beings, we all want to leave some sort of legacy, right? Like we all want to leave something behind, leave a fingerprint kind of behind on, through people, through experiences.
That is kind of you, and I do hope to think that's correct. I think that we touched on growth mindset. That was kind of always in the back of my head, rather than teaching the skill of throwing a free throw or, multiplication. That really what you were trying to do is, I'm going to teach you to feel like you can get better at something. And if you feel like that, then you'll always feel like that. Speaking of your B2B remit, talk us through EMS then. Talk us through day next week.
Yes, so I'm going to be involved in two different sessions at EMS. So first is Monday, the Sparks brand side session. I'm going to be a part of a panel, Architects of Experience, Brand Trust That's Built to Last. I'm with some heavy hitters and look forward to getting to know my panel and contributing to it, being a part of that workshop. This is my first time, by the way, at EMS. So I'm really excited to jump in kind of across the board. I'm also doing an individual presentation along with an agency that I do a ton of work with called Brand Revolution. That's on Wednesday afternoon. So it's kind of bookending EMS. The other funny thing is, you won't necessarily see me there a lot throughout the entirety of it because our big annual industry event, Dell Technologies World, is happening right up the road at the Venetian simultaneously. So I'm bouncing back and forth between the two. It's going to be fun. I'm genuinely excited about it. But yeah, I've got kind of a dual responsibility that week.
Well, listen, I look forward to both sessions, Monday and Wednesday.
Absolutely, Killian. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, mate.